morning and welcome back to the lecture series on tribal studies in India, interdisciplinary approaches and perspectives. So, today we are going to discuss tribal literature and we will take up two important texts on the issues of the tribals written by two major artists, two major writers who have significantly invested in the field of tribal scholarship. So, just as the tribal societies have evolved, so have their literature. Contemporary tribal literature has undergone significant transformation in the recent years, driven by factors such as globalization, environmental shifts as well as socio-political changes. Such development or such evolution has led to the inclusion of newer voices, newer perspectives, possibilities and experimentation with new literary forms. A key feature of contemporary tribal literature is the rise of transformative narratives. Such narratives offer compelling insights into how tribal communities are adapting to modern influences, exploring the themes of adaptability, resilience and identity. However, we also talk about the sufferance, the trials and tribulations, the deprivation, the exploitation and how their habitation, their natural organic habits and habitats have been deeply influenced by external factors including colonization by the Britishers and then by the non-tribals, the natives in India and how they have been dislocated from their own environments and the repercussions of such larger changes provoked or triggered by modernization and globalization as well as environmental changes. Tribal literature is a powerful reflection of the rich and varied cultural heritage of the often marginalized, often peripheral tribal communities. Through their oral traditions, myths, folk tales and literary expressions, the tribal literature provides distinctive insights into the tribal people's history, belief systems, spirituality as well as their day-to-day struggles. According to G. N. Devi, the adaptation of scripts by numerous tribal languages has led to the emergence of written artworks, especially written poetry, which however in some cases, notably in the cases of Santhali, Mizo and Dewali languages has significantly diminished or even surpassed the traditional oral form of tribal songs. So, that is the kind of transition, that is the kind of transition in terms of medium that the knowledge system is undergoing, has recently undergone and is still undergoing, and how it loses a lot of its inherent quality that cannot be transcribed into writing. So, once we shift the medium from orality, from oral tradition to something written, the written form, there is some form of dilution also taking place. It is difficult somewhat to capture everything from the oral tradition. By the time it travels to the pen and paper, some parts get effaced, some parts get diluted, some even beyond recognition at times, right. So, the written version can only approximately try to touch the original oral version. It cannot be exactly the same. Now, tribal narratives in Indian English literature offer a distinct voice that challenge the dominant views, the dominant expectations and standards of writing or even arts and aesthetics. They often depict the dual oppression both by the colonial as well as the post-colonial systems. Scholar and critic Deepak Gupta points out that despite cultural exchange among different Indian tribal communities, the specificities of each group underscore its inherent distinctiveness. As literature acts as a record of history and a means of solidifying cultural identity, tribal literature becomes a crucial vehicle in propping up the tribal self-definition. Talking about tribal literature, writers such as Mahashweta Devi, Gopinath Mohanty, Hansa Sauvendra Shekhar, as well as Mamang Dai, among others, have vividly depicted through their plethora of writings how environmental and gender exploitations intersect under colonialism, and they highlight the systemic oppression and marginalization of the tribal people by different non-tribal groups. Coming to Mahashweta Devi, who has lived between 1926 and 2016, was an influential Indian writer in Bengali and a committed tribal activist, rather subaltern activist. She tirelessly worked for the rights and empowerment of tribal communities, especially working with the Lodha, Munda and Shabar communities across several Indian states. Mahashweta Devi's significant literary contributions include Aranyar Adhikar, or The Rights of the Forest, that came out in 1977, Draupadi, it was published in 1978, Hajar Churashir Ma, it came out in 1974, Rudali in 1993, and Pterodactyl, Puran Chahai and Pirtha in 2001. Her impactful work have been widely recognized with awards such as the Sahitya Akademi Award, Gyanpith Award, Raman Magsaysay Award, Padma Shri as well as Padma Vibhushan. Despite the fact that Mahashweta Devi's stories are not written in a tribal language and the fact that she is not a tribal author herself, her evocative portrayal of tribal life has remained unmatched by any other Indian writer till the recent times. Her works stand as deeply sympathetic and imaginative understandings of tribal existence. So, Aranyar Adhikar is a major contribution to the tribal scholarship. It is a remarkable novel by Devi which provides a deeply moving account of the tragic situation that the subaltern tribal people faced as they were displaced and dispossessed of the forest lands that have historically, ancestrally sustained, nourished and protected them like a mother. Through this novel, Devi offers a profound understanding of the tribal agitation that stretched from the mid to the late 19th century, focusing on the Munda uprising. As a social activist and novelist, Mahashweta Devi goes beyond historical accounts to explore the true nature of Birsa Munda's leadership and the rebellion's character. The novel reveals how the intuition of feudal lords, zamindars, police and labor contractors destroyed the tribals' peaceful lives, their natural habitat, effectively enslaving them in their own territory. Further, Aranyar Adhikar shows how the British land revenue system facilitated the entry of numerous non-tribals, often people who posed as anti-tribals, individuals who started occupying the tribal areas, the tribal domains, and this novel emphasizes the complicity of colonialism and the feudal system in India in exploiting and further worsening the conditions of the tribal population. According to Don G. Vijayan and S. Uma Maheshwari, by mythically depicting Birsa Munda and Dhani Munda, Mahashweta Devi establishes a context for Choti Munda to flourish as a mythological figure. Written originally in Bangla in the year 1980, this work was translated by Gayatri Spivak in 2002. Choti Munda and his arrow is what the English translation has been popularly known as. So, Choti Munda is the novel's protagonist who had his initial understanding of the center margin dynamic in his early years when he stayed with his sister Parmi during a famine. Choti Munda observed Parmi's in-laws and husband being compelled into bonded labor by a nearby landlord. This experience showed him that bonded labor was not unique to the Munda people, but affected other subaltern communities as well. The novel begins with Choti's ancestor Purti Munda repeatedly losing his land to outsiders, especially the whites as well as the local Bengalis and Biharis, due to the discovery of valuable resources. Once the area is discovered as rich in minerals, rich in coals, the outsiders come and settle and start extracting the lands and dislocating the tribal people. At the age of 14, Choti Munda is sent to Dhani Munda, a comrade of Birsa Munda, to learn archery and also about the Munda community's perpetual bondage to landowners and moneylenders. Dhani Munda instills the spirit of Birsa's struggle and the essence of the Ulgulan movement in Choti, also teaching him about ecological sustainability, which is at the heart of all tribal resistance, all tribal rebellions and movements, and even something that informs this tribal spirituality and philosophy. Choti's father tragically dies by suiciding, by taking his own life after being humiliated by a landlord, a landowner named Lala Baijnath. Ironically, Lala Baijnath's son Tirathnath is later honored with the title of Rai Sahib for saving the villagers during a natural calamity. The arrival of a brick kiln and contractors transforms the Mundas from hunter gatherers and agriculturalists to daily wage laborers. They become beggars and laborers in their own lands. Narsinghar's king becomes the new forest king according to the remodeling of the tribal domain and the tribal society, with Narsinghar's agent Tasildar Singh controlling the bonded laborers, the tribal bonded laborers, until his death by a poisoned arrow. So, this entire tribal domain is hijacked by Narsinghar and Tasildar Singh, and they are controlling the tribal bonded laborers by poisoned arrows. So, through coercion, through forceful governance and dominance. A new form of exploitation emerges with Romeo and his Youth League party. However, the Mundas, having endured enough, thoughtfully orchestrate the murder of all the party members from this league. Next, we will briefly mention Devi's other short story, or rather novella, Pterodactyl, Puran Sahai and Pirtha. In this work, Devi has effectively employed the myth of the extinct pterodactyl in order to portray the suffering of the Nagesia tribals in the Pirtha region. It was added to the collection named Imaginary Maps that came out in 1995, and it was translated into English by Gayatri Spivak, and it owes its depiction of the pterodactyl to Devi's experience, Devi's real life experience with rock art as well as the Pithora paintings by her Adivasi friend from Tejgarh. Through the reflections of Shankar, a literate tribal, the story portrays the erosion of the Nagesia tribals' culture and history. So, Shankar contrasts their current transformed lives with a past of harmonious coexistence with nature and deep respect for Mother Earth, highlighting the disruption, the violation of their peaceful pastoral existence, and the way their environment has been eroded, has been wasted and exploited by the outsiders, all in the name of development. These artistic representations resonate with tribal memory, rebuilding a timeless voice that embodies tribal history. Unfortunately, modernity's influence has led to the devastation of these pterodactyl paintings, which symbolize the ancestral spirit, the collective ancestral spirit of the tribal community. Moving on to the next author in our discussion in today's lecture. Gopinath Mohanty was a prominent and prolific Odia writer of the mid 20th century, recognized with the Gyanpith Award as well as the first recipient of the National Sahitya Akademi Award in 1955 for his novel Amrutar Santan that came out in 1947. Mohanty lived between 1914 and 1991. Among his works, which include Dadi Budha that came out in 1944, Paraja in 1945, his magnum opus Amrutar Santan is something that he is best known for. So, Amrutar Santan stands out for its dedication to the lives and traditions of Odisha's tribal community, providing a realistic glimpse into their everyday lives. Set among the Paraja clan in Odisha's Koraput region, Mohanty's novel Paraja, which came out in 1997 and which was translated by B.K. Das, reveals the exploitation of the tribals by the moneylender, landowners, and one figure that becomes very prominent in this narrative of exploitation is that of Ramachandran Bisoi, and the narrative thereby highlights a form of focal edge binarism and maltreatment of the tribals at the hands of the non-tribals. The protagonist, the tribal protagonist Sukrujani, lives peacefully in the Sarsupadar region with his 2 sons and 2 daughters 8 years after his wife's death. He dreams of happy marriages for his children within the Paraja community. So, his life is, it does not have a lot of aspirations, he is not asking for a lot of material pleasures, all he wants is to see his children well settled, through marriage, and they have a square meal, and that is precisely what most of the tribal people want. They do not have a lot of materialistic desire, but even the minimum that is required for maintenance of life, for sustenance, is denied to them oftentimes. So, in the case of this novel Paraja, the arrival of a forest guard with a lustful obsession for his daughter Jili shatters Sukrujani's peace, as the guard demands his daughter through the Paraja leader. Here, author Mohanty has portrayed a seemingly civilized tax inspector coming from the mainstream background, from the non-tribal background, to be exploiting the tribal area, seeking both sexual and financial gains from the indigenous people, especially the indigenous women, a scheme that is exposed by a bonded labor named Cow Paraja to the Paraja leader. Sukrujani's fury erupts, and he states firmly to Cow Paraja that their women, the tribal women, are not for sale. They are not for sale, and they won't be sent to these outsiders to satiate their lust. This marks the onset of displacement and colonialism by the dominant culture in their ancestral lands. The exploitative forest guard acts as a colonist, helping the moneylender evict the Paraja. Failing his initial aim, the guard falsely accuses Sukrujani of illegal deforestation, leading to Sukru's first displacement. An 80 rupee fine is enforced on Sukru, which converts him into bonded labor for the moneylender, and he borrows 300 rupees from the moneylender, from Ramchandra Bisoi, to pay off his fine, thus losing his freedom and becoming a bonded labor due to government actions, right. So, in order to pay off the 80 rupee fine, he borrows 300 rupees from the moneylender Ramchandra, and then he henceforth becomes a bonded labor on his lands. The novel also exposes the court system's prejudice against the tribals. It emphasizes the brutal feudal system and the Paraja tribe's marginalization, thereby depicting their severe exploitation at the hands of Ramchandra Bisoi and the corrupt government official and forest watchman named Garaja Sundara, who as the landlord's agent prevents their traditional means of survival, destroys their traditional means of survival. As a way of concluding, we see that Gopinath Mohanty, like Mahashweta Devi, has exposed the economic exploitation and displacement of the tribals by the non-tribal elites. Mohanty, while also depicting horrific mainstream practices such as bonded labor and torture of these subalterns, presents the tribal difficulties, however, with some degree of less force as compared to Mahashweta Devi and in a less confrontational manner. And this could perhaps be owing to the fact that Mahashweta Devi has been an activist who has for decades together lived with and learned from and worked among the tribals, and she has invested a major part of her life trying to live with and learn from and understand the tribal way of life. However, what is common to both Mohanty and Mahashweta Devi is that both these prolific authors share the underlying goal of bridging the gap between the tribal and the mainstream cultures. Both of them have invested their authorial faculty, their creative faculty, as well as their humanitarian faculty to try and understand the tribal society, how it works, how these people have rebelled, how they have prepared themselves for the rebellions, why they have rebelled, how they were stripped of their basic dignity to live with respect, to live in an organic way, the way their ancestors have time immemorially lived, how they have been deprived and how that has provoked them to take up arms time and again. So, this effort to understand a people that are vastly different, whose cultures are vastly different from the non-tribals, has been present through a number of writings produced by both Mohanty and Mahashweta Devi. With this, we come to the end of our lecture today. Let us meet with another topic and another round of discussions in our next lecture. Thank you.